And just how is he holding up facing all these charges?
Not well at all. Not well at all. I looked at him in some news clips when his whole history started back when he was 11 years old. He'd walk into court, his head would be hanging down. Here it is 22 years later. He's a grown man now, and I look at him sometimes in a courtroom or in a jail cell, and his head, his chin's touching his chest. He knows he's probably in some real serious trouble here, and it breaks his heart. Also, he's got a brand new son. He's got a 4-month-old Nathaniel Abraham Jr. out there. And I know this because I saw the boy for the first time yesterday at Pontiac 50th Judicial District Court. I knew the boy had been born, but I hadn't had a chance to see him. He's a beautiful young baby, looks happy, and it's a tragedy what his father's been through. But I said to Nathaniel's girlfriend, I says, maybe this will be a new, improved version of Nathaniel.
What went wrong here? I mean, going back to, when he was 11, the first youngest person convicted of murder.
Sociologists have been trying to figure out for years and years, do we do what we do and act the way we act because of our genetic makeup, or is it because of our upbringing? I say it's probably a combination of things. His genetic dispositions as well as his environment. They call it nature versus nurture. Nature being your genetic makeup and nurture being the environments you find yourself surrounded in. I don't know a ton about his younger days, but I know his father's not in his picture. It is in his life. I know that at a very young age, Nathaniel was on the streets of Pontiac. I know that Pontiac had a nasty reputation back in that time for violence and drug selling and all those types of things. And I don't believe he was capable of adult thinking at 11 years old when he shot and killed Ronnie Green. Then we put him in a facility, well, several facilities. I'd be polite calling them facilities. I prefer to call them facilities because when I say institution, it has a negative connotation. But the truth is they're institutions, facilities, lockdown facilities, whatever you want to call it. We put him in there at such a young age, at 11 years old, that all his socialization came from those environments. And he was locked in there with other, I don't want to say it this way, good kids who did bad things. And so he was reared up. He learned, I'd imagine, most of his things in these institutions. And they lock you down. We try to, make them sound like they're great places and rehabilitation and programs. Well, everybody's getting rich off the programs, but are they working? There's a terrible, terrible rate of recidivism for juveniles and adults. Something's broken. Okay, so we don't.
So the rehab part is missing.
Well, there's parts missing, but when I say there's something broken, okay, that's fine. Now, what do we do to fix it? I'm not a legislator. I'm not a judge. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm just a lowly attorney. But I do the best I can. I'm gonna see this through with Nathaniel to the very end, and let him know there's at least one individual in the world that will stand by his side. I don't agree with some of his behaviors, and at this point they're only allegations. But no matter what he did, a lot of times people are pushed into doing things, and a lot of people say that's a cop-out, and I'm not using it as a cop-out. I'm just saying that he's the sum total of everything he's experienced in his whole life. And making terribly bad decisions, well, apparently he's been doing that for a while, and we can't have people out here who are hurting other people with drugs and with murder and rape and thievery and things like this if they're going to do it continually. Nathaniel, I don't believe is a bad young man at all. I call him a young man at 33 years old. He's a junior to me, but I still think about that boy in the courtroom at 11. Nathaniel's had a lot of issues ever since he was a young boy, and they're going to weigh on him the rest of his life. But he's at the point now he has to take control and responsibility for each and everything he does and realize for the rest of his life he'll be under the spotlight. Unfortunately, as my dad told me ever since I was a young man, our histories follow us. Criminal, school, employment, financial, and other people will hold that against you or judge you by it in many ways. So Nathaniel's got to walk cleaner than everybody else. Hopefully, with these new series of events here, he will he's got a lot of time to do thinking. That's the one thing about being locked up. He's got a lot of time to do nothing but thinking. He's got to eat, he's got to rest, and he may, read a book or, walk around the floor of the jail facilities in Oakland County. But he also has a lot of time to do some thinking. And a lot of men and women have found themselves in jails and prisons and come out to lead really decent lives or, exceptional lives. And so I'm hoping that no matter what happens as regards these cases that he's facing right now, 4 of them up in Oakland County Circuit Court for resisting instructing police officers, 1 causing injury, the indecent exposure out of Pontiac 50th District Court, the 6 drug-related charges out of Pontiac 50th District Court, and the 3 drug-related charges out of here, Farmington Hills 47th District Court, with all that pending on him, plus his prior criminal history, including a murder at the age of 11. I'm hoping that his eyes get opened real wide and he realizes he's going to have to do something different. I don't care if he gets out and he's working at McDonald's. That's an honorable thing to do. It's honorable to work hard even if you don't get a lot of money.
You think if he thinks about that 4-year-old that might make a difference?
Well, it's not a 4-year-old, it's a 4-month-old.
A 4-month-old, right.
I think that plays heavily. I don't like mentioning his son to him because he immediately... you can tell he's very remorseful for the situation he finds himself in. I think I withdrew his counsel on the last 2 cases because not only was I not getting paid properly, but I didn't feel quite appreciated or respected. And I think that hurt him. I know when he was charged with that indecent exposure and those 4 counts of resisting instructing police officers, that he was going around the city of Pontiac with his tank top and his gym shorts and the tennis shoes, pushing a lawnmower all day long, trying to make honest money and making honest money cutting people's lawns. I hope I didn't help push him into any behaviors because he wasn't able to afford me as his attorney. And like I said, it wasn't just a money thing. I kept on representing him for a number of court appearances well after the time I stopped getting paid because I was trying to help him. But once I started getting a feeling that I wasn't appreciated or respected properly, I figured, well, you want to try somebody else, good luck with the court-appointed attorney or whoever else you might be able to retain. So maybe he was frustrated. Maybe he saw his new young son and was trying to provide for that child but couldn't do it cutting lawns. I don't know what happened out there. Mm-hmm. So as far as his son, his 4-month-old son, he absolutely loves that little boy. And that may be the motivating factor to change his life around. Even if he gets time on these cases, and if he does get time on these cases, it'll be substantial. We're looking at about a minimum of 8 years to start with. It depends upon what the circuit court judge does. But if he was to plead or take a plea bargain, including some of these offenses, he's still looking at significant prison time. But the good news is, no matter what, as long as he stays alive, he can have a chance while he's in prison, if he goes there, to rehabilitate himself. He can't count on a system to do it. He's got to find his way. He's got to find his path, and maybe the thought of his son out there will give him the encouragement while he's in lockdown to make a change starting today, not tomorrow, today, and have a better life for him and for his new son who's a junior.
Since you withdrew from a couple of cases, what made you come back now?
What made me come back now is partially I'm not a very smart man, and partially I got a pretty big heart, and more of a big heart. I've endured a lot of things in my life. I was institutionalized at 5 years old, stuck in a psychiatric home by my alcoholic grandmother when I was 5 years old. My mother passed away at 32 years old from prescription drugs and drinking, and left behind 3 children. I was the oldest at 11. So I had somewhat of a rough upbringing, but my father, God bless him, and I won't say rest his soul because he's still alive at 88 years old, raised me and my sister on his own, and we're both lawyers now. I've graduated from the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, as well as law school, and I've been known to get myself in some jams, but I learn from them and I grow from them. I call them learning experiences instead of bad things. And I truly believe in redemption. I truly believe that people can change and grow as human beings. And I think that's what each of us are striving to do as we get older. It takes a whole lifetime to be called an elder in your community, and it's a shame it takes a whole lifetime to figure out a lot of these things, because by the time you finally figure them out, it's time to go to the other side and maybe do a final exam. I don't know what happens on the other side, but I believe in him and his ability to get better. I'm not saying he will or he won't. I'm just saying I know he's got that potential. And if I can guide him and stand by his side through this whole process for these cases here, and which I will. I will not treat him any different than any other client. I'll give him his due dignity and respect. I'll make sure that his constitutional rights aren't trampled upon, and that he has a chance, a fair shake to stand up. And eventually, if he doesn't walk on these cases, we'll be sent before a judge for a sentencing, and ultimately a judge will determine his fate and outcome, but he still has a lot of opportunity to determine his fate and outcome for the rest of his life beyond these current charges.